EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. J-Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday, brother? We got the Tush pusher in front of us. We had some Eagles players speak down at the NovaCare Complex yesterday, including the big stars, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Jordan Mailata. How you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Glad it's finally going to be over, at least for the short term. If they vote it down, it'll be back again, but be nice to stop talking about it for a little bit. And this will be it. If they don't ban it today, it'll be here for the 2025 season. But I don't even like the phrasing, the terminology about it, because you see, they read the headlines, and I believe fans have been gaslighted on this issue. I've been very honest and upfront about that. You see it with the headlines. It's you'll see it all over. NFL votes to ban the Tush push. No, they didn't. It's a completely different resolution. It's not. They changed it. The original stupid Packers rule, the resolution, yeah, that was obviously trying to get one play out of the game. They removed that, replaced it with get pushing out of the game, which is what they should have done in the first place. And you still see the same wording, the same phrasing, the same philosophy. Now you can make the argument that, behind it, what spawned it is the tush push. That's legitimate. But when people even frame it the wrong way, it's bothersome. So I'm glad it's going to go away, up or down. I'm glad it's going to go away for the short term.
Any idea when the time might come down today, John? Probably somewhat later on today, maybe noon.
Sometime this morning, I would say. Hopefully before we get off the air.
Got a feeling it's going to be gone, right?
I believe so, because the competition committee's behind it now. The safety commission they have is behind it now. So I believe they will push it across the finish line. And the guys who did talk yesterday did not seem all that concerned about it, especially Jordan Mailata, who was basically like, we don't talk about it. If there's no pushing, we won't push. That's that dominant mindset they have with the offensive line. Now, Jalen Hurts was more, he basically declined comments on it. And A.J. Brown was like, it's 1 yard, and laughed about it. It's like, I don't care. So, I think there's a big disconnect of what the players believe and what the fans and media believe.
Yeah, we'll see when that comes down later on today. We'll get the update on Tush Push. I think it's going to be gone for those who are following along with it. And if you're watching Birds 365, I would imagine you're following along with it. John, the other thing that happened yesterday was just the players spoke. You just mentioned, you heard from Mailata, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, head coach Nick Sirianni. I'll say this, John, and maybe this is just the selfish nature of me, but boy, it felt good to see him at least up there. Felt good to get a notification on my phone. The Philadelphia Eagles are live and players are speaking. I was pumped up to see that. What'd you make of the players that spoke yesterday?
Yeah, it's good to get the quarterback. Obviously, we haven't talked to Jalen Hurts since cleanout day after the Super Bowl, so it's been a while. And there's more significant change. I'll tell you what I took most from Jalen. He seems a lot calmer about this transition. That's been a big story about the constant transition, really, with him dating back to college at Alabama. Different play color every year, yada yada. And that's the case this year. But Kevin Patullo's been here the whole time. Kevin Patullo's, worked with Jalen Hurts for a long time now. And he seemed much less, he seemed much more competent in the transition this time. Even though if you peel back the onion, there's different pieces with new position coach with Scott Loeffler and new passing game coordinator with Parks Frazier. But I think that foundation with Kevin Patullo makes him a little bit more comfortable with what's going to happen. So that's what I took from a football perspective away from it. I think that's a positive. But they won the Super Bowl last year with a guy coming from outside the building,
Right.
and all the talk about 95% different terminology. They won the Super Bowl. So you can do it in a bunch of different ways, but I do think he's more comfortable with this change than some of the other changes, certainly this change last year. So that was the most notable part to me. And AJ got to explain his philosophy after the Super Bowl. You know, thought he'd be fulfilled, wasn't fulfilled, which I think is a good thing for Eagles fans. You're taught in pro football and really coming up, if you play the game, that the entire goal is to win the Lombardi Trophy, and that is, obviously, but the fact that driven people they don't stop, and they're not satiated by that. That's a good thing. Think about Tom Brady. You don't stop. Tom Brady's out there breaking laws during COVID when he's already got a bunch of trophies. Driven people are driven, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, AJ Brown was excellent yesterday. I thought Jordan Mailata was excellent as well. QB1 Jalen Hurts spoke. John, I'll ask you this, maybe a little bit of unconventional question for Jalen, for me to you on Jalen Hurts, but he has a very specific style up at the podium. Now, some people love it, some people don't like it. I'm not here to opine on that, but how does that change how you approach him as a beat reporter? He's kind of very guarded, uses a little bit of the same slogans over and over again. I thought you had a great question about all the different things that come when you're a Super Bowl MVP winner, between the Met Gala and Men's Health and all these different things, and kind of just gave you the same cliche as a response. How does that change how you approach talking to a guy like Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I try to get him talking. Sometimes he's very guarded. Sometimes he'll completely shut down a question like the tush push. He's like, yeah, something else he said that's not pertinent.
About the White House, right?
Yeah, the White House. Yeah, thank you. So I try to get him talking, and once he starts talking, sometimes he gives you a little bit of a nugget. But the guy's tremendously guarded. It's not changing. Perfect example. AJ got engaged. We congratulated him. We're joking about John Legend, and he's having a good time and a laugh about it. And I congratulated Jalen on getting married. Didn't even register.
Right.
Didn't want to talk about it. Didn't even want to say. He's just extremely, extremely guarded. He's got a higher profile position. He's been through a lot of criticism, despite the fact that, guys like him and Nick Sirianni, same way, will say they don't hear it. They hear it. They hear it. And it changes you a little bit. So from his perspective, he's very guarded, and that's not going to change. So you basically, I try to get him talking.
Yeah. You're right. Once he gets going a little bit, he starts talking, you can get a little bit more out of him. If he doesn't like your question, you're toast.
Yeah. And that's fine. He can, we're all big boys. I've been shut down before.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he knows me at this point. He knows I'm not trying to gotcha. So that's part of it is too. He knows certain people, and it doesn't matter who they are. If he doesn't want to answer a question, he's not going to answer. But if he trusts you a little bit, and he wants to talk about something, he'll go off. There's times where I've asked him questions, and he'll take it to where he wants to talk about something, and you get something that way. So my goal is to get him talking, basically.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, I get it. He is closed off though, man. Sometimes it's hard to listen to. Not in a way that I'm judging him or anything, but just like, sometimes would want a little bit more as a fan, but it doesn't really matter what I want at the end of the day. But I do find it interesting the way he answers questions. Definitely an unconventional dude. Some would call it prima donna like John. You know, I've heard that before, and it's hard to brush it off completely. But listen, he keeps winning, so he can basically do what he wants up there. All good on that front. I thought Mailata was great yesterday, John. You guys always have great conversations with Jordan Mailata. He seems like, I said this yesterday, he seems like just a regular dude who's really good at football. You know, like I could go and hang out with Jordan Mailata anytime.
Yeah, Jordan Mailata is great. You know, behind the scenes, in front of the camera. He's just very open. He understands the relationship that you need to have, especially in this town. You know, he's one of the guys who fought to keep us in the locker room, believe it or not, because you know, Oren Burks was here, and you know, Oren's a big part of the NFLPA, and they were trying to push the idea of sort of mixed zones and taking reporters out of the locker room. And you know, Jordan basically was the one who said, "Yeah, you know, that's not going to work here, or it's going to be detrimental to the team." You know, because there is such passion and there is such a demand for information about this football team and having relationships. And again, the core group of people that cover this team, yeah, they very rarely are even fans going to criticize them because they do a professional job. You might not like what they report, but they do a professional job. So, Jordan realizes we're fair, and you know, so that has developed this relationship to where you can see those kind of conversations and that kind of back and forth. Like I was talking to him about the tush push, we were just going back and forth about it. You know, that's over years. You know, I've been here since day one when he was here. I was talking to him when nobody was talking to him, and he was the last guy on the roster, just because he's funny dude, you know, talented, extremely talented. You've seen the singing, you saw the Chris Stapleton stuff. We're talking about that. Yeah, he's a great story. Like there's going to be books written about Jordan Mailata and his, because it's crazy where he started. He didn't know how to put on his helmet when he first got here.
It's crazy, is right. Now he's a leader. Now he's a leader of a Super Bowl winning football team. Pretty amazing his journey. There's no doubt about it, John. Good. I would imagine there'll be a 30 for 30 or NFL films or something on that story too. Right when he hangs him up. I'm looking.
There should be.
Yeah,
there should be.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. We'll get the update, John, today on the tush push. I know we're done talking about it here, but we're going to have to cover it until they at least wrap it up. Any idea on the time for the tush push? Will come out probably noon today or maybe this morning, maybe even when we're on here on Birds 365. What do you think?
I'm hoping as early as possible, but it's definitely coming today. They'll know. They'll know whether they have the votes, and it'll come quickly if they have the votes. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Let's see if it ends up happening. We got Mike Gill, MBLG today. So we got two great guests for everybody to break down the recent events for the Philadelphia Eagles, the recent changes, the tush push conversation, which we'll have with Mike Gill and Brandon Goutton. So we'll cover it all for everybody. John, anything else stick out in the press conferences yesterday to you? Like I said, it was good to just get the notification that the Eagles were back up on the podium.
Yeah, well, Nick obviously got his extension, didn't want to talk about the length. You know, it's much more difficult to, I assume it's 4 years, but that's just an assumption. But he's going to be here for a while if everything goes to plan. I was hoping he'd spike the football, but I gave him an opportunity. He didn't want to, which is understandable. But if anybody deserves to spike the football, it's Nick Sirianni. And he didn't. Which you know, he's an interesting guy because he does have this personality that will rub people the wrong way on television when he's spiking the football that way, but he won't do it off. He won't do it off the field. Just tremendous success. But you know, there's this whole cadre of people that won't accept CEO coaches, even though the best coaches in the history of football are CEO coaches, a lot of them. And for whatever reason, they value play callers more than, the definition of the job. The head coach of the football team is supposed to be involved with the whole team, not the head coach of the offense, not the head coach of the defense. But in many cities, you have a head coach of the offense and the head coach of the defense. My best example of that was Sean McVay when he first got the job and with the Rams. Wade Phillips was hired to be his defensive coordinator, legendary defensive coordinator. He wouldn't even watch the game when the defense was on the field. He had nothing to do with it. He would just sit around, talk to the quarterback, and I don't know. People like that. I think if you look at, and Tom Coughlin was the first one I talked about it with him when he became a CEO coach, because I had been advocating for CEO coach for a long time. Mike Gill's going to come on. He can probably talk about that. Tom Coughlin told me, because I said, why? It doesn't make sense to me, because Tom Coughlin started out as a defensive guy. So I asked him once, I said, why aren't there more CEO coaches? Like, I go in and say, I'm in charge of I want to be in charge of the whole. Why would you want just what I said? Why would you want somebody that's just paying attention to one side of the football? And he did explain to me that, well, you have to get in the building and establish yourself and make sure everybody's on your page and do that. And then you can elevate to being a CEO coach, which is kind of what happened very quickly with Nick Sirianni. But so he's the one who explained that to me. So I understand more why they hire play callers more often than not to start. But the guys who elevate to the CEO level, so to speak, that's who I want as a coach. And I think more
Nick Sirianni, and he gets the big extension. Congrats to Nick. I'm sure the number will come out eventually. Maybe it won't. I'm not sure, John. I'm not sure if anybody will.
Yeah, it'll come out eventually, but it'll be a while.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. We got Mike Gill in the green room coming up here. We'll have Brandon Goutton later on in hour number 2. So 2 great guests, our usual Wednesday guest here on Birds 365. Let's go to Mike Gill now here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to his show on 97.3 ESPN down the shore and subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show. Mike, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Wednesday morning?
I'm doing excellent. Don't have the extension that Nick got, but I'm yearning still.
Well, we don't know. Maybe your extension was bigger. We don't know because we don't know the numbers, Mike. So hopefully it came in a little bit bigger. Although I think we're all going to be behind Nick a little bit.
I think it's very fascinating. The Ben Johnson $13 million probably put this into a little bit of a tailspin for the Eagles. I mean, I don't know if they were really. If you're his agent, I just won the Super Bowl. I've been to the playoffs 4 times. I went to the Super Bowl again. I have the highest winning percentage in the NFL. You got to pay me more than $13 million. I don't know that the Eagles were thinking to do that maybe in March when there was a possibility of having to extend him.
Oh, no. And I mean, Clint Dowdle's his agent. If I'm Clint Dowdle, I'm like, hey, Andy's at 20. I'm asking for 21. Forget about 13. If I'm
we were talking yesterday about, is Nick already after 4 years, should he be considered the greatest coach in the history of the franchise? I said, well, he did something Andy couldn't do. I mean, Andy put the franchise on the map, but he didn't win 70% of his games. Now it's a lot less time. If 14 years later, is he going to win 58, 60% of his games? We'll see if he lasts 14 years. But he was able to do something Andy could not do, and that was win the Super Bowl. Andy got there. He couldn't get it done. This is mesmerizing to me. I think he is the most improbable sports story maybe in the history of the city. I can't understand how this guy isn't the most beloved, most popular sports figure of all time. I mean, this guy is Rocky Balboa. He is Vince Papale. He's all of them wrapped into one figure. And yet people are like, I don't know what that guy got. Are people dumb? This guy came from nothing. They handpicked him out of a book and said, let's hire this guy. And they were like, no, he's a southpaw. And they got, no, we'll knock him out in 3. He gets to the Super Bowl, loses just like Rocky, and then comes back and beats the same team. The parallels are unbelievable. This guy should be the most popular sports figure in the city ever. And people are like, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't even call the plays. What does he do?
It's crazy, man.
It's
funny
to me.
It's funny. And I bring up Greg Rosenthal from, used to work at NFL Network, happened to be doing, and I had no idea the extension was coming down. On the day that the extension was announced, they happened to be doing a coaching draft of current NFL head coaches. On his show, and they would go back and forth. Like Andy was number 1. He was the first overall pick. And Nick Sirianni ended up getting picked 15th after winning the Super Bowl. 15th.
I'm, and what's funny too, I talk about this often, people didn't like Andy. They love Buddy Ryan. Buddy never won a game in the playoff game ever. Andy was the, most decorated coach in the history of the franchise until recently, I guess. I mean, I don't know where you put Doug, and he's an interesting conversation in that list to get the first one. But personality over performance. And the funny is, Nick he's the guy that basically is Philadelphia. He's unpolished. He's in your face. No one likes us. We don't care. That's Nick Sirianni. And yet people are like, well, I don't like the way he acts. I don't like the way he does this.
Well, they've been taught,
that
you know what it is.
Yearned for.
I'm gonna make excuses, which I rarely do, for the fans, but they've been taught that play calling is everything, Mike. They've been taught that play calling is everything, so they believe it. Believe it.
I think I heard right at the beginning of right at the end of what you're saying. I am more on the CEO coach. I remember. Doug was the play caller, and people were like, he has too much on his plate. He has to give up the play calling. He's got too much going on. The concept of, to me, what gets lost in the sauce here is, you're right. If you're the guy who calls the plays, you are deemed to be great at something. We don't deem that you can be great at recognizing what you're not great at and saying, I trust you, and I trust you, and I trust you. And that's what makes me great. Is my ability to trust others' greatness. What does he always say? The greatness, you can't be great without the greatness of others. The fact that he understands that, hey, I can't be the best by myself. I need all of these people in order for us to be the best. That's where he is great. Because if he doesn't acknowledge that, the team can't be as good as they are.
Mike, you're talking like a guy who would pay Nick Sirianni more than Andy Reid and make him the top paid coach in the NFL. Where do you think he comes down? Is it $15 million with McVay? Is it more than $18 million where I think Sean Payton is $20 million for Andy Reid? We don't know the number, but what would you value Nick Sirianni? Where would you go if you were the owner of this team?
I'm big in, to me, what gets lost in sports, again, I think, John, you mentioned the play calling. I think sports, in all sports, baseball, basketball, football, it's coming down to managing locker rooms, managing personalities, managing culture. Look at the world we live in. You're managing guys on Instagram and Twitter, and they're playing video games, talking to people, and their chats are getting picked up and then getting broadcasted on Twitch. I mean, they have their own podcast. They didn't have to deal with that years ago. You dealt with the locker room and whatever went on there. You're dealing with a bizarre world, and you have to have 53 guys all on the same page somehow. You don't have time to say what's going on 3rd down and 7. I mean, come on. That's trivial in the world that's going on in these guys' lives. He has to be able to oversee 53 men and what they're doing at all times. What's the value on that? I don't know, but I know what the value on winning the Super Bowl is. And it's probably, and by the way, it's not just winning the Super Bowl. It was the most dominating performance in Super Bowl history, potentially, against the team that pretty good. Yeah. It's not some, look, there's other teams that won Super Bowls by bigger scores. San Francisco demolishes the Chargers. That Chargers team was a nothing burger. You beat the Chiefs, for God's sakes. You know, it wasn't like some team that just randomly popped into the Super Bowl and then vanished. You beat the Chiefs. I mean,
you beat the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, who were trying to win a third consecutive Super Bowl, the first team, and you didn't let them pass the 50-yard line for 9 drives. I'm with you. It was the most dominant Super Bowl performance of all time.
Yeah,
the garbage time kind of ruins that for some people, but in the guts of the game, they completely destroyed them.
Just go back to what I said before about this guy being Rocky Balboa. The guy gets hired. Not one person knew who this guy was. Nobody knew who he was. He gets
Frank
hired.
Reich did.
He gets hired, which is improbable to begin with. The guy started his coaching career at Division III, and now he's the head coach of a team that won a Super Bowl. He gets the team to the playoffs the first year. There wasn't one person in the world who thought that was a playoff team. They won 4 games the year before. They started 2-5, and he gets them to the playoffs at that moment. Well, they should have been 2-5. He should have known before. This is what, people wanted Howie Roseman fired, right? They hated the guy. They wanted him fired. He learned from doing things wrong. Nick, what has made him evolve as this coach is he's made mistakes. He's done things wrong. He's acknowledged those mistakes. He's changed. He said, I can't throw the ball. I have to do this. This isn't our roster. They go to the playoffs. They go 10-1. I always said, does he get credit for them being 10-1? What was his role in them being 10-1? Well, they lost 6 out of 7. Okay, what was his role in that? He has a role in them being 10-1. He has a role in them losing 6 out of 7. He then learned from whatever happened in that 6 out of 7 and won the freaking Super Bowl the next year. So he obviously identified something that he did wrong and learned from it. We can't just fire people every time they do one thing wrong. You have to see if they can evolve and learn from it. And I know we don't want to just throw seasons away and waste seasons for people to have on-the-job training. But the guy has a big enough track record by getting to the Super Bowl in his second year where nobody knew who he was to say, hey, let's see if this guy with very little experience. By the way, one thing that separates him from Andy won a lot. Andy was tremendous. But what was the Sunday after a loss? Time management, timeouts. What is he doing? And that still plagues him 20 years later. We don't talk about time management and timeout problems all that much with this guy, right? He has basically mastered when to use timeouts, time management situations. That is not a problem with him. This, mindset of he doesn't call the plays, he doesn't do that. Whatever he's doing, it's working. So you pull him out of there, you put somebody in there, and maybe they say to the other guys, hey, I don't want your input as much. I don't need your input. I'm the man here. How's that going to work? We don't know. So why shake up what you got?
Any concern, Mike, about staying power with the type of emotional volatility he has? Now, I'm going to quote somebody, and I don't agree with this person, but it's an interesting talking point from, a different perspective to play devil's advocate to what you said. A Fox Sports radio host, his name is Ben Muller. I don't know Ben at all. I've never even heard of him, but I appreciate.
I've been on his show.
Okay, so John knows Ben Muller well. All right, so he put out this yesterday on Nick Sirianni. Again, I don't agree with Ben, but I'm going to give you it because it's the devil's advocate view of Nick Sirianni. He says, as a talk show host, I love Nick Sirianni. He's an amateur. He does everything you're not supposed to do as a grown-up, and it's good for talk radio. Fans heckle him. He's a pompous a-hole schmuck. All the stuff you're taught not to do, he does, which is really good for what I do. And it's fine if the Eagles are winning, but it's not going to last. Now, that's a pretty tough review of Nick Sirianni, but any concern on the staying power, right? Like, I do think there may be some merit to what he's saying where Nick is a little bit emotionally high and low. He does the things with the fans. Some of those things do come up. Any concern about that at all in the long term?
I mean, do I have concern? Not necessarily. I don't saying it's off base, but I feel like there's a guy in Nick Sirianni who is, I don't want to say being humbled, but is adapting on the fly here. I mean, even yesterday in his press conference, he seemed a lot more, grounded with the whole situation. I think, John, you might have been the one who asked him the question, like, Hey, when you're by yourself, do you get ever a chance to like say, "Screw all these people"? Look what I did.
Because I wanted to see. I wanted him to spike the football. It's like, but he didn't take
Right,
the
but
bait.
even the day of the parade, everybody was wondering who was going to be the guy who was like outlandish. I was wondering if Nick was going to take his opportunity to kind of and he was very grounded that day. I talked about this on my show yesterday. I've been to Jamestown, New York. I spent a week there. I went to college with a guy from Jamestown, New York, which is where Nick is from. It is a very different spot than we live. Okay, it is a very laid back. Guess what? People are nice there. They're nice people. They're folksy. They're very, very nice. I think Nick.
I lived in the Midwest for years. Yeah, people don't understand. Like,
right,
you can go to a Green Bay game and people are going to welcome you and give you a beer. And
yeah, I know that because I went to school down south. Everybody says hi to everybody all the time. Nobody says hi up here.
So when I say they're very nice, like I think Nick got hired here. And he tried to incorporate himself into the fabric of this community. Hey, I got hired into this new community, and I'm going to go. So people look at him as like the pandering in chief, and I think he just legitimately wants to fit in. Like, hey,
I coined that term, by the way.
Yeah, no, but I know.
I say it to him. I've said because come on.
But I think like when you look at that, it's perceived as him trying too hard. And I think this is him saying, hey, this is my new home. This is the way my home was. And I want to bring that here. I want to be a part of the community. I want to go to Wawa and I want to get a pretzel and I want to say hello and I want to have my Harper jersey on. And I want to be a part of this community. And people kind of look at him like a goofball because of it. But legitimately, if you've been to Jamestown, New York, I mean, they have the Lucille Ball Museum in Jamestown, New York. It is a very folksy, slow town that this guy comes from. And I think he legitimately is just like, I want to incorporate myself into this community. I want to be a part of your community. And we kind of look at you like, what are you trying to do, man? Like, like it just comes off. I think it comes off disingenuous, but I don't think he's trying to be disingenuous.
No, I agree with that. To Ben's, comment. I mean, first of all, he's not. Can you read that again, Sandra? Do you have it? I think people misunderstand. Like, he's on the field like you're supposed to have a decorum. Like, he doesn't have that decorum as an NFL. You're an NFL head coach. Why are you jumping on the bench in Indianapolis? Why are you yelling at fans in Kansas City? There's supposed to be a decorum. He hasn't had that decorum, but
well, listen, coaches used to wear
personal schmuck
sideline.
Yeah, exactly.
The position has evolved. As I said, it used to be, you were this X and O guy. Nobody knew who a coordinator was 20 years ago. I mean, for God's sake, most people didn't know.
John's point is right though about the decor. Like, just and like John's right. He's not personally a pompous a-hole schmuck, which is what
I mean.
Not at all. If you want me to, but people who don't know Nick though. John talks to Nick every week, or multiple days of the week during the football season. We cover him all year, Mike, so we watch everything he says and does. Ben Mahler might see the sideline instance of him chirping at a fan and be like, "What a douchebag," and that's what people see outside of the city who aren't as tapped in. Ben said, he's an amateur. He does everything you're not supposed to do as a grown up, and it's good for talk radio. Fans heckle him, and he's a pompous a-hole schmuck. All the stuff you're taught not to do, he does, which is really good for what I do. It's not going to last.
Well, I'll tell you what else he does that's good for his progression is he wins. I mean, in the end, is he redefining the way the job is, the decorum of the job? I don't know that other people are going to follow what he does. But look, he's a young guy. It's turning into a young guy's profession. I mean, every team is trying to find the young, new ideas, and with young and new, things change. I mean, as I said, the job used to be X's and O's and two-a-days and hitting all day long. Well, now it's making sure that guys aren't, broadcasting podcasts with saying stupid things and putting stuff out on Twitter. And if they do put stuff out on Twitter, what did you mean? Did you really want to leave here? Are you insinuating you want to be here? Like, that's the job now. That wasn't part of the job 10, 15 years ago. So all of the decorum and everything is kind of out the window as the games in all sports evolve here. So you have to find a guy that can connect with those kids and those guys. I mean, quite frankly, as sports have evolved, you're dealing with kids a lot of times. You're dealing with kids who are 20, in basketball, 18, 19, sometimes years old. So you cannot be the stoic, old-fashioned coach that you got away with, back in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. That's out the window.
Yeah. Well, look at NBA coaches. Everybody had to dress like Pat Riley for years, and spend 10 grand on suits, and all of a sudden they say, why the hell are we doing this? And they show up with 3/4 zips, and everybody's fine with it after a while. When it first started, everybody's like, why aren't you dressing up? Why would you dress up to be an NBA coach? And everybody's sweating on you and ruining those $2,000. So sometimes it's one of the things that Chip Kelly said that always resonated with me is like, don't tell me, if I ask you something, don't tell me we do it because that's the way we've always done it. Give me a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Open your mind, basically, is what he was trying to say, which I agree with. And things change and things evolve. And yeah, Nick does it a different way, but successful. That used to be the benchmark.
Yeah, and I think one thing with Nick that gets overlooked is his relationship and the way he connects with the players. I mean, those are the things that, I always make when John Madden football comes out, you look at speed, agility, power, all these things. But my buddy who didn't play video games in college with us, he'd say, hey, do they have a meter for heart there? They don't put that one on the screen for you. You can never find out what's inside. You can never know what kind of relationships and connection he has with the players and how much they respect him. They might look at it and say, look, this guy's some crazy SOB. I love playing for this guy. Right.
Yeah. But Mike, here's the other pushback to that part of it too. And I understand this, but you talk to players, most players don't play for coaches. Now they do to some regard, but players play for contracts, man. Players this is a job, a profession, now is there some merit to camaraderie and giving a common goal and all those things? I do think so. But I don't know if we can sit here and say, fans
but
play,
I think
the human
side. I think the human side of it is, look, we all want to be inspired by our superiors. Like, hey,
yeah, I agree with that.
I have somebody that I walk into a building, I want to learn something from you. I want you to give me something, some wisdom, something that I can learn from. Even though I'm playing for me and my money and my family and whatever, I still want to be inspired and have some sort of meaning of having to go to this building every day. So you say you might not play for the coach, but look, college sports used to be, and to some extent it might be still, probably not as much, where you chose a place to go to school because of the coach. Who was that guy getting me to go there? I'm going, and then when the coach leaves, I'm following him because I have that much trust or that much passion for playing for that guy. And it's almost what, professional sports is a little bit, how come every time, soon as a guy gets released, what's the first dot you connect? Well, that guy played for so-and-so. There's a good chance, why are we talking about Justin Simmons? Well, he played for Vic Fangio. I mean, Now Simmons has come out and said he would like to play for Philly, but many times that is not the case. And we just assume Justin Simmons would want to play in Philadelphia. Why? Well,
yeah, you're right.
You care less about Philadelphia. He wants to play for Vic Fangio because he trusts him and he feels that guy got something out of him that other coaches could not get out of him.
All right. Unfortunately, we got to talk about this, Mike. Tush Push Day. Latest from Diana Rossini, who was out there. She has told both the league's competition and players' health and safety committees have voted to ban pushing from the game. It looks like the Tush Push is on the way out. No surprise. Your take on this. I'll tell you, I don't know if you heard in the green room. people have been gaslighted about this. Even Diana, when she talks about it, to ban the play. Read the resolution. They're banning pushing. Some of this is going to help the Eagles defense. I said from day one, Zander can tell you, they will not pass the resolution, the original resolution that was about one specific play, essentially. They will not pass that. They didn't pass it. They're not going to pass that today. They put forth a much broader resolution that is removing pushing from the game. Have fans been gaslighted? Because I think they've been gaslighted.
So have they voted on it? It's today, but they haven't voted on it yet, or is she just saying it's going in that direction?
It's going in that direction. The competition committees behind it, which I told people at the beginning of the show, the health and safety committees have won it out. So that is a significant step forward for the banning.
Well, I think when this came up the last time they voted and they didn't get the votes, my position is I think, they had a rule 20 years ago. For some reason, they got rid of that rule. Nobody took advantage of the rule. The Eagles finally did. And now they tried to, back in April, claim that it was a health and safety hazard, which there was no data to prove. So what we had talked about was, this isn't a health and safety problem. It's an unfair advantage to the offense that they're getting a chance to just physically take the player and move him forward. That, to me, I felt the offense had an unfair advantage that the defense could not reciprocate. If it was worded properly, it would most likely be gone. And it seems that the Packers have updated the wording on the way that they wanted this particular play to be considered, and it appears that we're getting down that road, which then could have a counterbalance to something that what happens on the defensive side of the ball if you're broadening the terminology as an offensive play, because that's what it was. It was an offensive play that was allowed to do this, as opposed to the defense. The defense couldn't just they couldn't get leverage. They can't do anything like that. The offense was allowed to, which was why I felt that the offense had an unfair advantage here.
Yeah. That's where I've been. I don't know why they removed it in 2005.
And it kind of went under the radar because nobody did anything with it. It was like you never heard anything about it.
And people say that. You remember, I always bring up the Patriots-Ravens formation game where Bill Belichick had John Harbaugh, going berserk on the sidelines. He basically lined up the tight end inside as an eligible receiver. Nobody thought of it before, and took advantage, and they turned around this game. The Ravens were leading. They banned that the next offseason, like right away, because somebody took advantage of it. And they said, well, this is not what we meant by having that. So they closed the loophole. Mm-hmm. So to Mike's point, yeah, it's been gone for 20 years, but nobody took advantage of it.
Right. Yeah. And quite frankly, I think it might have been you yesterday as well. 2 points for John, who asked Jordan Mailata about it. And he was like, okay, we'll just have to,
won't push.
We'll just won't push. We'll just do it differently. I feel like the play, it's almost like akin to the Sixers branding their losing the process. Many teams have lost purposely before. They just decided to put a brand name next to it to try to get people to embrace it. The Eagles similar, where we'll just do something. It was branded, and it got notoriety because of the fact that it was branded. And like anything, marketing works, man. You market the right way and to the right people.
And by the way, Jordan hates the name, so he's glad the name is going to be good.
I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
He was pretty candid on that yesterday. And then I liked how he said, I'm just being an asshole.
Yeah. Well, Jordan can't get through a press conference without cursing once or twice.
Mike, do you think it changes though? Like I agree. I do agree with John where they're still gonna, run this play. They're gonna run the quarterback sneak and they're gonna be pretty damn successful at it. But do you think it changes the certain moments in games where they've been that uber aggressive. For example, they're on their own side of the 50 and they're like, I don't care, let them hang. I'm going for it because we're that. Do you think they still do that? Like, that's what I'm waiting to see. I think they're going to be successful, but how willing are they going to be able to do that play in different circumstances? That's kind of what I'm looking for this year if this play is done.
I agree. I mean, are they going to just, as in a fait accompli? We used to say, hey, basically they're running, 9 yards at a time because they know at the end of every drive they can get that 1 yard. Are they going in with the same mindset now that, hey, we only need to get 8, 9 yards because we have this play in our back pocket and we'll run it on our own 30. We'll run it at any time, anywhere. That might change. It'll be interesting now. Or, listen, they got a pretty good running back. They got a pretty good offensive line. They could just say, look, it doesn't matter. We'll still run the ball, get our 1 yard or so. But it, is like, if it was this far, does it have to be this far now for them to make the decision? I that will be definitely interesting to see how it changes the overall approach to their play calling and when and where they would go for things. And by the way, keep in mind, the kicker last year was a little erratic at times. And that was the question, was like, hey, if the ball's on the 35, are they going to try to kick a field goal like they normally would, or are they going to go for it? So I think it is a little bit of a encompassing, a little bit of a domino effect of the different decisions that they might make or have to make, throughout the game.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and that's
they did bring an AJ Dillon in too, who's a bigger back that they can, turn to and try to get these.
Yeah, I still, if I'm a betting man, let's see, Jalen Hurts had 10 touchdowns rushing, 13, 15, and 14. Those are his 4 years as a starter. So it's always reached double digits. He's still going to be double digits if he's healthy, obviously.
I said, I think I saw yesterday, what is it? 60% of his touchdowns have been on a tush push rushing.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to change. It's going to change much at all. Look a little bit different, more conventional quarterback sneaks, but he's still going to be the guy inside the 5-yard line. So Saquon wants touchdowns, and they told him that last year.
The touchdown in the Super Bowl that he scored on the tush push, I mean, I think it was Goddard who, he gave him a pretty good shove forward. I mean, there's many times where sometimes it's not even necessary. He gets the little crease and he just kind of keeps going. His legs are so strong that he just keeps kind of getting low and, digging into the ground and keeping his forward momentum. But the one in the Super Bowl, he's like body surfing, and Goddard just like torpedoes him forward.
Yeah, but they're running the tush push. So my argument to that is, well, you don't have the tush push in your arsenal. Just spread everybody out. So you have AJ outside, Devontae outside, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jahan Dotson.
I think it will be interesting to see if the Eagles still line up in that formation, and just to have people like, what the heck are they doing? And then run different things off of it and just run regular QB sneaks off it, because they do have other plays off that formation that they kind of tried to implement.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that formation hurts you if you're running a conventional sneak without the push. So I do think they have to change it up. But it's far easier to run a conventional sneak from outside of that formation, if that makes sense. So they can just go back to what they did in 2021.
Which Jeff Kerr has pointed out that they have been highly successful without the tush push.
Yeah. Now, some would say, why go away from it if it was so successful? Like they did start to do this tush push for a reason. It worked really well. They didn't go to the other thing. So I don't know. I wonder if that's fair.
As many people have said, they ran the tush push in 2023. They got beat in the first round, and nobody voted on this play.
It's true. It is.
No, but I point out to those people, they didn't vote on this play because they couldn't pass the play. It was 16-16. So they didn't technically vote.
8 more votes, right? Today?
Yeah. So they didn't technically pass. They didn't technically vote, but it wouldn't have passed. They are not voting on that today. It is a completely different wording. That's what I'm trying to say. People are getting gaslighted with this.
Yeah. The one that I'm more passionate about, because quite frankly, if the tush push goes away, like, I don't know that it's going to change much. I think the Eagles will be fine without it. But I do not need to see them give seeding based on record. That is something that I think.
No, I don't think that's passing. I agree with you, and
Yeah.
I don't think that one is passing.
This to me is a no. Like, I don't know how this comes up. Like, you have two teams that play two different schedules. Well, I won 13 games. Yeah, well, you played the AFC South, and I got stuck playing the AFC North. You had 4 layups. I had to play Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Yeah, you won 13 games, and I won 10. All right, are you that much better than me? No. I think you need to have a goal. In football, one of the great things about football that the other sports have really lost, particularly basketball, is, the divisions matter. Can you imagine if the NFC East didn't matter anymore and Eagles, Dallas, and Washington and Giants games just kind of faded into obscurity, and you were just like, what's this division match for? Nobody cares because, those are the things. Who wins your division? The stat that no one's won 20 straight years, that matters. The fact that you win your division and you get something for that. Keep these division rivalries meaning something. The difference between a team winning 13 and 10, if you're a 13-win team and you're that good and you can't go on the road and beat a 9-win team, then you weren't all that good. So I feel like the division is in football, it's the last kind of thing where the division is still a huge goal to try to achieve. And you're by seeding differently, you are taking that goal away.
I'm with you 100%. That's every NFL coach says, number one, win the division. Then you move on.
You don't want to win the Atlantic division.
You want to win any division, but I'm with
the
you. The
NBA winning the division. Who even knows what division teams are in?
Yeah. Well, I'm talking NFL. Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Hockey changed their terms. I don't even know what divisions there are in
hockey messed up by doing that.
Yeah. But to your point about NFL divisions, everything about this league, and I talked about it with overtime. Overtime changed, and now they've had to change it again. Why? Because a bunch of losers were complaining about 13 seconds, and Buffalo deserves this and Buffalo deserves that. They don't deserve jack shit if they can't navigate 13 seconds, but not getting the football and all that kind of stuff. Who cares? Last year, Minnesota won 14 games. They deserve this. They deserve that. Guess what? They didn't even have to play in Los Angeles because of the wildfires. They played in Arizona, which was a neutral field. They could have played on Mars, but they couldn't block the Los Angeles front. They weren't winning anywhere. They weren't winning in Minnesota.
But that's a good point, is they had the more wins, and they got to play on a neutral field, and they still lost. So in football, every sport, really, in baseball, we see it all the time. Baseball does weights the divisions, a little bit more than they used to. You get with this new extra wild card, the worst division winner has to play the wild card, the 2 best. So you do get rewarded for being to the best. Although in baseball, the debate is that even a reward that you have to sit out? Now, last year, the Dodgers and the Yankees were 2 teams that had to sit out, so it did work out for them. But we've seen before the Phillies beat the Braves 2 years in a row, and it was, the Braves had to sit out a week, all that stuff. But in football, sitting out a week generally is a reward, getting the chance for the one team that gets the bye. I do like that only one team, so that 1 seed does mean that much more. But the difference in football between a team that wins 13 games and 10 is generally not all that much talent-wise. I mean, you look at what you just said, playing on a neutral site with more wins. What are you complaining about? I mean, that right there is your answer. We had 2 teams. One won 13 games. The other two, what did the Rams win? 10, 9 last year? They played on a neutral site, and the team with 13 losses lost the game.
Yeah. Mike, you feel a little better this week. Last couple of weeks we've had you on. You kind of came in with a blowtorch on this team. You feeling a little better about this team's chances on this Wednesday? What do you got? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you. Listen, I think the team is look. They have an unbelievable roster still. They lost 4 starters on defense. I think any team, if you looked at Washington right now and said they lost the NFC Championship game, and lost 4 starters on the defense that gave up 55 points, I think you would be saying that team's not as good. I mean, I'm not dumb. I see a team that's lost 4 starters, and I don't think in any spot have they upgraded that I can say definitively. Now, when the season starts, maybe some of these players exceed my expectations and outperform their predecessor. But on May, whatever day we are, 21st, I don't think that any of the 4 replacements will outperform the guy that they are taking over for. So I have to say that the defense has taken a step back. And if your defense has taken a step back, by proxy, I would think the team has taken a small step back. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going from a Super Bowl champion to not in the playoffs. But I am one of the few that thinks that Dallas is a better team with Dak Prescott. No, I don't say the few, but I kid. I think Dallas is a better team with Dak Prescott than they are Cooper Rush. I think they're probably going to be better with George Pickens than whatever other guy they had playing receiver there last year. I think their defense, healthy, is probably better than it was last year. And I have seen Super Bowl champions on Thursday nights, Detroit into Kansas City, example, go in and win that game. Not far-fetched, a team that you didn't have a lot of expectations. Detroit had some expectations. They were kind of the hot team. But I say this, if you lose that game to Dallas on Thursday night, then you're going to Kansas City. Then you play the Rams. And then you're at Tampa Bay. Just put all those factors together of
No, I said you early in the
rematch,
season. I'm
rematch, House of Horrors in Tampa.
I'm not too worried about Dallas on the opener, but those next 3 weeks, that there's some room for angst if the Eagles don't handle that well, because it's
how many times
Kansas
have you
City.
been at a game at Lincoln Financial Field where the pomp and circumstance and the energy before the kickoff is so great, and then the product deflates so precipitously because they just can't get back the energy that happened in the pregame? I remember Reggie White getting his jersey retired. What was the score of that game? 42-0?
I don't recall that.
I will recall
around.
for you.
Yeah.
42-0. They lost to Seattle on a Monday night.
I remember the Seattle game. I didn't know that was
jersey.
Reggie's.
There are a lot of times where, the NFC Championship games, the opening of Lincoln Financial Field, Tampa Bay came here and whipped you. There are many times where there are crowning achievements that happen before the game starts, and you're looking back at that game saying, what the heck just happened? I'm not saying that I believe Dallas is going to walk right in here and roll right through you, but I think some people just look at Dallas as like a team that won 7 games last year and that they're a joke. I think they've improved, and you have gotten a little back closer to the pack. Doesn't mean Dallas, big picture, is better than you. But I'm just saying, if you lose that first game, you play at Kansas City, the Rams, who were one play away from beating you.
Yep.
And how have they played in Tampa Bay in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Not good.
Not it's good. It's going to be humid in September in Tampa, most likely.
And I think the Rams coming to Philly almost every single year.
No.
I think that Rams game being a home game is better for the Rams being in September versus if it was later in the season. Obviously, the Rams, are a warm weather team. So it is interesting, Mike. Those first 4 weeks are tough, brother. And we had who did we have on yesterday? Caden Steele, who brought up the Broncos game that could be tough in week 5.
I'm not sold.
They played Denver after that, who went to the playoffs last year. So it's not like that's the first game they have, where you are going to be a decided favorite will be the Giant game.
Of course, the Giants might be the only two.
Now you're a 7-point favorite right now against Dallas, so I guess you're saying that's a decided favorite as well. Right now, you give me an opportunity, I'd probably take Dallas on the line.
Yeah, I mean, your point is an interesting one about the celebrations and things like that. And I remember that Seattle game, but I was, not in the area at the time. But I remember the beatdown. I didn't know that was the day they
42
retired
nothing.
Reggie White's number.
Yeah,
but-
Vince Young started that game. Didn't go well.
Yeah, that was quite the beatdown. And obviously, you're going to have the Super Bowl, and everybody's hyped up because you get to do it in front of Jerry Jones. Maybe it has the opposite effect. Maybe you're right.
By the way, teams in that game that won the Super Bowl are 20-5. So, they generally come out, won the Super Bowl, and then win their opener. But in the recent past, Detroit just beat Kansas City. Baltimore lost last year to Kansas City. That was a good game. So the last two have been good games, but the Lions did go to Kansas City and win that game.
All right, at Mike Gill Show. Make sure you follow Mike on the X platform. Follow his YouTube page as well at Mike Gill Show. You can see all his video clips. Watching the Phillies on the porch. You can do that. What do you call that? What do you brand that as? You need marketing.
It's on the porch. On the porch with Mike Gill. This Sunday, 4:00, we'll be on the porch.
Are you on 97.5? Hey, people got to get that right. 97.3 when you're down the shore, 97.5 when you're listening to Mike on the weekends.
Just one click away. On Sunday, 9 to noon, I will be in on 97.5 during the week, 97.3 today.
It is a serene setting, Mike, on the porch. I will say it's an enjoyable setting to watch. So we'll be watching.
The Phillies, all of a sudden, I was told by numerous Phillies fans that the season was over, Mike. And now it's back, they have the best record in the National League. So
yeah,
there's a football mentality when it comes to the Phillies early in the season.
Yeah, and that's a byproduct of bringing back the same team. It's I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. But they're doing well. So stop by with Mike Gill on the porch.
Yeah, Sunday, 4:00. We'll be on the porch. We're just having beers on the porch. You can chat in the YouTube just like you do here.
Perfect. Right. Mike, appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining in today and every Wednesday. We'll be watching that. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show. Mike, thank you, brother.
See you guys.
Thanks, bud.
There's Mike Gill here joining us on Birds 365. Great job from Mike Gill. Here on the show. John, Mike's been great recently. He got the people in the chat all stirred up every week. I hit him with you're more positive today, Mike. And then that kind of allowed him to elaborate into, they might lose the opener to the Cowboys. They have a tough first 4 games.
They're going 0-4. That's what I heard. I'm joking. You didn't say that.
So Mike, boy, I tell you what, Mike is good at stirring the pot a little bit in the offseason. I like it. Well done by him.
Here's Ralph Vacchiano, who covers the NFC East for Fox Sports. Here's what Ralph tweeted, which I agree with, except for one thing. A little test for what I don't agree with and what I do agree with. Here's what Ralph tweeted, posted, whatever. NFL owners are expected to vote on the fate of the Tush push today, and there appears to be enough support to ban it. The Eagles probably will remain unstoppable in short yardage situations, but 31 other teams will at least feel better about it. There's something I agree with, something I don't agree with. The Eagles will remain unstoppable in short yardage situations for the most part. And the NFL owners are not voting on the fate of the Tush push. They changed it. That resolution failed.
Right. I mean, the catalyst for it is very obvious.
The catalyst, correct. Yes. I have no problem.
Yeah.
Then say that. You said it correctly, Zander. It was the catalyst. No doubt about it. That I will not argue with. I will argue with, because I'm a stickler with this shit.
Yeah, I know.
They are not voting on the fates of the Tush push. That failed. They pulled it back because it failed, as I predicted it would fail. And they pulled it back to rework it and expand it. And they're voting on that today. That's my only point.
Yeah.
Was it the catalyst? 150%.
Yeah, no, you're right about
that doesn't exist.
I like the other thing, John. Speaking of X post, you just read one from Ralph Vacchiano that was good, but I like the other one you shared out not too long ago from Art Stapleton. That's kind of how I feel about it. He says the Tush push doesn't make the Eagles special. The Eagles roster and their collection of talent makes the Eagles special.
Correct.
The tush push is a non-competitive play, and how Washington attacked it put the defense of it into the mockery stage. That's why people want it gone. I agree 100%. That Commander playoff game with Frankie Louvu jumping over the
I
offense.
said it at the time. That's going to be an
was bad
issue.
news.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue because it
You
just
think
looked.
that was calculated, John?
No, I think he was trying to stop the play, but it's an issue. So what happened is he's trying to time the snap, and he mistimed it, and the Eagles knew he was trying to time the snap, so they kept, hard counting.
Yeah.
And then it became the mockery that it became. He was just trying to time the snap.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for them to ban this play. Like I don't care. I'm so done. People acting like that. This is the end all be all for it. Just ban the stupid play. Who cares?
0.27%. And again, don't listen to me. Listen to Jordan Mailata. He's like, who cares? Hates the name AJ Brown. It's 1 yard. AJ was laughing.
Right. No, I mean, listen, you've won me over. Jeff's won me over on that part of it. The only question I will still have that I'd like to watch in the season is like, what is their level of aggressiveness in different instances of the game? Certain parts of the field, will that change at all? And I think that's fair to look at, but I'm not sure if it will or not.
No, that's fair, but they're going to be that's fair to look at, but they're going to be one of the most aggressive teams in football because they were more aggressive. They were the most aggressive team in football before it. They're actually not the most aggressive team with it. Now, that isn't because of that. It's because of other teams catching up and just getting more aggressive like Detroit. So it has nothing to do with it. But the Eagles will be one of the more aggressive teams in football. That's just what they believe in. That goes far larger. I mean, how many times they go for 4th and 3, 4th and 5?
Yeah, right. No, I agree.
I mean,
they are an aggressive team overall. I agree.
Yeah.
That's not going to change for sure. Let's see how it all shakes out. Kimbo's checks in. Let's get to some super chats here. We got BLG coming up in about 10 minutes. Mike Gill was great again.
By the way, BLG is fired up. He thinks everybody's cowards in the NFL. So the fans are going to like BLG.
Ooh, on the tush push you're talking.
Oh, here's what BLG tweeted 50 minutes ago. So you're going to love BLG.
Oh, here we go.
The NFL, I'll just retweet it. The NFL is filled with losers and cowards who are demonstrably afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow. BLG bringing the heat today on Birds 365. I think
BLG's, I'm telling him, I think he's been gaslighted. I think everybody has been led astray.
Back to you. Kimbo's checks in. What's up, Kimbo's? Hope you're doing well. She says, they all said it. We don't need it. O-line, great.
It is, yeah. They don't need it. They were the best quarterback sneak team before they used it. They don't need it. They have the quarterback and the offensive line.
John, ready? Here's the duality of John McMullen, right? We get comments all the time. John's a Vikings fan. John, this person says, you can't convince me that John McMullen.
I know. It's awesome, isn't it? Isn't it? It's awesome.
The duality of John McMullen. I love it, man.
It is freaking awesome. Now, people in that building would disagree with you, but that's interesting because I'm advocating for the tush push to go, and I have for a while. Pushing as a whole, though. Again, I've said that for years. So it's interesting why he went down that road today. Probably because I complimented Nick Sirianni, I would think.
Maybe I can't keep track of it all, John.
Welcome to my world. I can't keep track of it.
Devin Shanahan checking in. What's up, Devin? In a way, it's a compliment to the Birds. I agree with that to some extent. They were so successful on a certain play that it became the catalyst for a sweeping rule change in the NFL to stop what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at it, the Bob Gibson route that I explained yesterday, the Wilt Chamberlain route.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Mills checking in. What's up, Mills? Tush push only 1 yard. Who cares? LOL.
That's what AJ said.
Yeah. Mills is a Cowboy fan who desires AJ Brown to be traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Remember, he was the one peddling the
was he?
AJ's being traded to the Cowboys this summer. Or to the who is it? Patriots at 4. Yeah, Patriots at 4. Brian Pumper checking in. What's up, Pump? Roger Goodell better up his security when he heads into Philly. It's going to look like the jump rope scene on Don't Be a Menace to South Central. Well, I don't know what the reference is, but
it's a movie reference. But yeah, and Larry Krasner got reelected, so Roger probably does have to watch himself.
Did he get reelected, or was that just the primary? That stinks because I like the guy who was primary. I know him well, Dugan, the guy who was going against.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it were the primary but I mean, yeah, Republicans are not relevant in Philadelphia. So
well, no, it was a Democratic primary. It was
Dugan. What I'm saying is, if you win the Democrat, you side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it doesn't really matter.
Me and Pat Dugan, John, were on the same basketball team this year. Oh, the All-Star Labor Classic. Pat Dugan was on our team this year.
Oh, is he the guy from Notre Dame? I met him.
No. That's not that guy. Dugan's a little bit. He's a different guy. He's older.
Oh, all right.
But no, that's who was going against him. But that's why I'm a Pat Dugan guy. He's a good guy. Suo Blaze checking in. Now Saquon will have 20 plus touchdowns like he should have last year. Suo's.
So I people are obsessed with it. No, it'll be the same thing. If he wants to score touchdowns, he's got to score them from outside of the 5-yard line. Because inside, it's still going to be Jalen Hurts heavy.
I agree. Good stuff, Sue. Appreciate all of our super chats today on everybody in here. Good stuff, everybody. Hit that like button for us. We do appreciate it. We've had great viewership, John, all throughout the offseason right now, especially here in May. So we appreciate everybody for checking in and day out here on Birds 365, staying up to date with the team, with us, and everything we got going on here at JAKIB and in Philadelphia Eagle land. So good stuff there. John, anything else what's the other thing that they're supposed to be reporting on today? I know the seeding
thing. Which I don't think is going to pass.
But that shouldn't pass, right? You don't think that should pass, do you?
I don't like the changing of that at all. Roger Goodell's probably going to get another contract extension, so that's going to upset some Eagles fans. But remember what his job is, making the owners money. So that's why he keeps getting contract extensions. Yeah, that's the major stuff. And obviously the Olympic thing came down yesterday, which is flag football in the 2028 Olympics. AJ already said he's not
his
playing.
comment was great. Yeah. I like when AJ messes with us a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be many pro players in that. I mean, they could probably play high school kids and win that. Nobody else plays football. So, but we'll see. I don't like the way we're heading down the road with flag football. I don't like it.
You got me a little nervous about it too. Let's see where it ends up in a couple years. We'll be following it here on JAKIB all throughout. All right, so we'll see if they make a change while we're still kicking. We will see. We appreciate everybody being here once again. Hit that like button. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. John, this is maybe one of the more anticipated BLG segments of the year.
He was fired up.
He's fired up. Scotty Max already said he's going to push back a little bit. Everybody's ready to get BLG up here. Good stuff, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. BLG coming up next.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365, a Wednesday edition here on the show as we move through the offseason. What are we, 106 days away from the start of the season?
106 days away.
Drought. Yeah. It's moving right along, John. That's not too long, man. 106 days, was that just over 3 months, 3.5 months, somewhere in there. So we're moving right along in the offseason here. BLG is going to join us here shortly. I was just reading, once again, reading his tweet. For those who missed it, all right, John tweeted this out. Or retweeted this out. Brandon Goutton tweeted it out. Who's going to join us in a second. The NFL is filled with losers and cowards who are demonstrably afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's BLG about 50 minutes ago or an hour ago at the start of our show.
He's fired up. By the way, I don't necessarily disagree with the NFL is filled with losers and cowards. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I do think people have been gaslighted on this particular issue to a ludicrous degree. And you saw it yesterday from some of the Eagles themselves. Like Jordan Mailata was basically nonplussed. And same with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was chuckling about it. I just think it's been so overblown. And you're right about Art Stapleton's tweet. You know, the Eagles are not good because of the tush push. The Eagles are good because they have the most good players. That's why they're good. And they're still going to have the most good players or near that level. Obviously, they had some significant attrition, but they're certainly top 5. And that's why they're going to be really good again. Just a matter of how good. And we'll see how that shakes out. And attrition's a big part of everything.
No doubt about it. And the man of the hour now steps in. I love
right, here he is. BLG's fired up.
BLG knows this yet. Like, BLG might not know what he's coming into, that he is the man of the hour right now. This is one of the more anticipated BLG segments
fired up
we've had, because we read out BLG's tweet on the show a little bit ago. John's not in full agreement on it, so we'll bring him up now. Let's go to Brandon Goutton from bleedinggreennation.com. Make sure you read all his work over there and follow him on X at Brandon Goutton. He joins us right now. BLG, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Yeah, I'm fired up. Here I am, ready to go.
Coming in hot, BLG. I loved it. The NFL, by the way, I'm going to read it. I'm going to say, I'm going to stop when I agree and when I disagree.
Okay.
The NFL is filled with losers and cowards, which I agree with, by the way.
Correct.
It is filled with losers and cowards who are demonstrably afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I believe BLG, and obviously this is in relation to the tush push, which is likely to be removed from the game shortly. I believe fans and media alike have been gaslighted over this subject from the standpoint of the stupid way the NFL handles things with their loser and coward abilities, from the standpoint of blaming things on safety. They always use that. That's they pull that down. Oh, safety this, safety that. They don't care about anything. However, I maintain, and I don't know why the NFL does things the way they do things, that the rule asking from the Green Bay Packers, the proposal to ban the tush push, failed. That failed back at the league meetings, the annual league meetings on whatever it was, April 1st. It was 16-16. They tabled it. And they had to take that off the table because it failed. So at least there's 16 non-losers and cowards. And they had to rework it and make it much broader. And what they're voting on today is removing pushing as a whole from the game, which, by the way, will help the Philadelphia Eagles at points on defensively. I saw one clip of Green Bay pushing in a runner from inside the 5-yard line into the end zone. That's now illegal. That will now be illegal. So I think, and everybody is tweeting out the NFL's voting on banning the tush push. Technically, that's not true today. So I think to a certain degree, people are getting gaslighted here.
I mean, but it's all where it came from, right? To me, that's at least
catalyst. Zander said it was the catalyst. That I agree with. That I agree with 100%.
Yeah, the genesis, I mean, there's more things, but the most prominent thing I would say as it relates to it probably getting over the goal line is, the Mark Murphy Q&A thing that he did originally and spoke out against it and talked about Bart Starr as if that is relevant at all in the year 2025. It's just
the Ice Bowl. Yeah.
It's just so pathetic. I mean, this is a guy too going out, he's going to be replaced this offseason, the new president. This is what you want your legacy to be, your last thing you do, is just be a total coward and clearly drive this effort to outlaw play and target a certain team. I mean, that's just I'd be if I was a Packers fan, I would be really embarrassed. I really would. I think that's if the Eagles were doing this to the Packers, I would be calling the Eagles out for that. I think it's a really embarrassing look.
Well, let me say this. And it's hard to do, and I get it, because I don't disagree with you on that. The original proposal, which I said on the show numerous times, it's not passing, and it didn't pass. And that's to the point where I don't understand why the NFL does things this way. Now the competition committee is behind the new proposal. And now the health and safety committee, which is bullshit, is behind the new proposal. Why doesn't the NFL just do it that way and say, all right, this is what we want? Why do they get teams involved? That I agree with, because you have this room for, the Packers are jealous of the Eagles and this and that. Why is Detroit involved with the seeding thing? Didn't affect them. They were 15-2. They were the number 1 seed. Why are they even involved? If the NFL wants to get this stuff done, and they clearly want to get this done and remove pushing from the game, why don't they just do it the right way? And then I don't think you have these problems.
That's a good question. Why don't they do it the right way? You could ask that about a lot of things. I think that's the problem. But yeah, it's just pathetic. I think, we've talked about it a lot. I think it's a bad look. And it's very funny to me.
Look. Yeah.
Well, it's something I bring up with 4th down decision making a lot. You have this macho, quote unquote, macho sport, macho league, with these guys these coaches prominently, but organizations too. A lot of the messaging is be tough, be physical, don't be afraid. And it's the things that we have to ban are a quarterback sneak and going for it on fourth down is really scary. Like it's so pathetic to me. These like grown men are just scared of these little.
Well, I
things.
agree with that from the standpoint of the safety stuff. Like it's like, yeah, it's complete contradiction. Like we want to be tough. You hear Nick Sirianni talk about it all the time. Tough players, bully. They bullied people on offense last year, basically. And yet everything is, we got to have these goofy things where Guardian caps, where Jason Kelsey's making fun of it with extra, bubble wrap on top of it. And it's a complete, in a lot of ways, modern football is a complete contradiction of everything. Because on one hand, they're talking about safety of plays that don't even exist. Oh, but this could happen. Well, of course.
That is so intellectually disingenuous. Like that's just not a reason. That's a what if is not a reason. That's just not. That's so baseless. You can say that about anything. I could make up anything. What if this happened about this? Like there's no basis.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, BLJ, for sure.
I was on the field. I tell this story all the time. My worst moment covering the NFL. I was on the field when Corey Stringer collapsed and ultimately died. And I tell that story because I'm old all the time. People do not believe this, but I swear to you it was true. Before Corey Stringer passed away, they did not let us as media people bring water onto the practice field.
Wow.
Didn't let us do it. We couldn't sit down. We had to stand the entire time. It was a macho football thing. Even Andy Reid, to Doug Peterson, BLG won't let anybody sit down.
Yes.
On the sideline. It was that way for you. And they would discourage guys from drinking water.
It's terrible.
I get the standpoint, and obviously there's legal indemnity issues and all that kind of point, but they seem to only pull out the safety card when they need it for something. They don't really care because and the back end, they're trying to get 18 games and this and
then
that.
The kickoff. Yeah, they're making the kickoff, more of a thing.
Yeah. So all of that is true. But I do think that at the end of the day, the only place we differ, the NFL is filled with losers and cowards. But I don't think – I think they want this out of the game for more than the Philadelphia Eagles, the league.
It does feel like they just found a loophole, though, John, to get it through.
I always
hear what you're saying from a more of a macro perspective, but it feels like they just found the loophole.
I know the league loves the Eagles. I know it. They love the Eagles because of their success, the passion of the fan base, the ratings that they draw. They don't dislike the Philadelphia Eagles, especially right now. They love any success story. But I brought it up. And you might remember the Ravens Patriots game, the formational tricks that Bill Belichick used. Now, they banned that right away because somebody came up with a loophole, and they said, you know what, this is not what we wanted, this is not what we meant, and they closed up that loophole immediately. Immediately. The problem here is they removed this rule for God knows what. For 80 years, there was no pushing on offense with professional football. And they removed it in 2005. And nobody took advantage of it until the Eagles. And it took a long time. And so they were going along, whoop-de-doo, not that big of a deal, whatever. And then all of a sudden, somebody found the Belichick loophole. And they said, this is not what we meant. This is not what we want. And from that standpoint, I don't really have a problem with it. Throughout the eras of Walter Payton and Emmitt Smith and Steve Young and all the great quarterbacks and all these great running backs, there was no pushing. The game was fine. So I think, and there were a couple guys, I think Art Stapleton tweeted out something. The Eagles are not good because of the tush push. They're good because they have good players. They're going to be fine. So that's my broader view. I don't think the league has anything against the Eagles. They do want this out of the game, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have out of the game. but it's got nothing to do with safety.
Right. Yeah. There's no evidence of that. You can't just say precautionary because that
And
again,
if
there's
the tush push didn't exist, though, John, will you agree or disagree with this? If the tush push wasn't the catalyst,
No, I already said it was the catalyst.
No, I know you're saying it was, but would they still want this out of the game if the tush push wasn't a big part of the last couple seasons?
If somebody else did the tush push and it came to the level that it's grown up to because of the branding, they would want it out. In other words, if Buffalo did it and they've done it successfully to the level the Eagles did, if New England did it, if Kansas City did it, whatever team you think they like, Dallas most notably, if they did it, they would still want it out of the game. All I'm saying is it has nothing to do with the Philadelphia Eagles as a franchise. The success and the fact that they branded it, and it wasn't even the Eagles, but the fact that it became a big thing that and Frankie Louvu happened, they don't want it in the game. And I don't disagree with them from that standpoint, from that small standpoint. And I don't think it should be in the game. I think it's a detriment to defense. And I think Philadelphia, and I said this yesterday on the show, and I want your thoughts on this, BLG, has always been defense first, defense first, defense first. It's a defensive town. How many times do we hear that? This is going to help your defense. Nobody else can push either. So they can't shove people into the end zone. So it's going to help Big Fangio. Look at it that way.
I mean, I agree they're going to be fine because they're just going to do the sneak and not push, and Jalen Hurts will probably be really effective on that. A couple things that like just stick out in my mind again of why this is, I think, problematic is that the timing, considering that why wasn't this big push happening after 2022? Or like, why didn't we get it done? If everyone truly felt that way, it shouldn't happen then, like you kind of talked about with the Patriots and how that was rectified. And then it wasn't an issue last offseason after the Eagles collapsed, as it's been brought up many times before. Somehow wasn't an issue when the Eagles were worse. I'm not saying the NFL was out to get them. I don't think that's the case in terms of the NFL, the league office. But I think teams in the NFL are absolutely out to get them in certain ways or are bitter or sore losers. I think there's some of that going on, clearly. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a weak look, as I've said again. And I think that like everyone used to talk about how great Tom Brady was at the quarterback sneak. Somehow that wasn't an issue. I know it's a little bit different, I guess, in terms of the pushing, but still, even so, that was like, oh my gosh, that was like revered as this amazing thing. And then Jalen Hurts does something, if not identical, very similar. And it's interesting how the conversation is entirely different. It's not even close.
Well,
it's not
I
like,
would say the difference between 2022 and 2024 wasn't the losing of the Super Bowl versus winning of the Super Bowl. I think it was Frankie Louvu. I think it was that.
That's such a bad reason to me, though. Like he was committing penalties. Like, how is this? And it's so weird. Like Washington fans have taken this as like a point of pride, even before the ban. Just like that, he was doing something good.
No, because I think it highlighted. He was committing penalties, but he was trying to, he was trying to time the snap.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eagles found out pretty quickly he was trying to time the snap. So you had this back and forth. Louvu wasn't going to stop trying to time the snap, and the Eagles weren't going to stop trying to get him to jump offside because they knew he was timing the snap. And it became this ugly version of football on this largest platform. So that's what they're thinking.
But it's like they're rewarded for that, and I don't think they should be rewarded for that. And also, like, who's to say you won't be doing the same thing now if they're trying to sneak now?
Do you think we'd be here right now? Like,
Probably not.
But then again, like that's so dumb to me. It's like the Commanders were rewarded for that. Then they shouldn't be rewarded for that.
Well, I don't think the league looks at it as rewarding the Commanders as much as, oh, this happens. So I always one of my harshest criticisms to the NFL for years has been it's a very reactive league. It's not a proactive league.
Of course,
they react to things, and they reacted to this ugly situation on this big platform, NFC championship game, and how many people were watching that game, and it just came across to casual fans as like, what is this nonsense? And from their standpoint, because, the whole big push in the NFL right now is international, because they pretty much maxed out North America.
Well, then
as
they
far
should
as
like the
money.
rugby angle.
Yeah. So, and it's a very difficult sport to translate internationally because people there don't grow up with it. And it's a goofy game if you look at it from their perspective. Like, everybody understands basketball. Everybody understands hockey. They grow up with it, with soccer. They call it football. They grow up with it. They don't grow up with NFL American football. And there's so many weird rules, and why are they stopping play and this and that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all take it for granted because we understand the game, and they're trying to grow the game. So I think it's much bigger than people realize. That's all I'm saying. They're not trying to pick on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, where the NFL deserves a lot of blame for is, again, the way they handle these things. But I would argue there are 16 teams that voted to not ban the tush push. So are there jealous teams? Yes. Clearly Green Bay is one of them. No doubt about it. But there are 16 teams that said, no, we're not fucking doing this. It's not the Eagles' fault. And that will never pass. They would not have passed that rule and that proposal, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to change it to make sure it wasn't singling out one team. And I think that point is at least somewhat of a positive, even though there's a bunch of issues with the way they went about it.
That still feels like Frankie Louvu got rewarded, or the Commanders got rewarded. Like, I understand what you're saying from a bigger perspective, but if you do boil it down, you mentioned that we might not be having this conversation if that doesn't happen. And it did happen, and now they're not going to have to deal with it anymore. So, like, in the micro, it is a reward for what the Commanders did.
Well, that's fine, but I've been talking about banning, pushing for 10 years, personally. I mean, I'm like, why is this in the game? Why did they take it out of the game? Because I'd go back to 2005. That was the exact year of the Bush push. I don't know if you remember that, BLG, Reggie Bush at USC. USC was in the great Pete Carroll run, best team in the country. Reggie Bush, Heisman Trophy winner. Matt Leinart, best quarterback in college football, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big game. Notre Dame, USC. It was a great game. And they had the ball at the 1 yard line, and they ran a quarterback sneak, and Matt Leinart was stoned. I mean, stoned. And the game was at Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure. And people were going nuts. And Notre Dame won the football game. And all of a sudden, they didn't blow the whistle. And here comes Reggie Bush out of nowhere. And he pushes him in the end zone. And at the time, that was illegal. You weren't allowed to do that in college football. And they didn't call it. USC won the game. It was this big controversy. They eventually changed it because of that, and put it in the game because they didn't want to admit they were wrong and fucked it up. And the NFL want that route. And I'm like, you don't want this in the game for years. And I'm older than BLG, so I'm not. When you would run the football, it could be Jim Brown, it could be Emmitt Smith, and blah, blah, blah. Any great running back, Walter Payton. And your forward momentum was stopped. The play was over. They would blow the whistle, and that'd be it. And you would go to the next play. And all of a sudden, because they're afraid of instant replay and they're afraid of video, well, let's let the play go. Let's let the play go. And you got all these people running in and pushing and shoving. Boy, yeah. I've been advocating for this for 10 plus years to get this the fuck out of the game, like it was for 80 years. And nobody complained. Nobody was like, they needed pushing in the game.
Nobody complained that it was in the game, though, until the Eagles came along.
Yes, because nobody took advantage of it. That's why with the Belichick stuff, it was immediate. For some, nobody figured. And by the way, the Eagles deserve credit for figuring out a way to take advantage of it, because it's their job it's Nick Sirianni's job to win football games. His job is not to worry about what the aesthetics look like. His job. So I don't blame the Eagles at all. They did a phenomenal freaking job with coming up with this. But I do think from a league standpoint, I don't have a problem with them wanting it out of the game. I don't. But I get, that people, I mean, the Eagles are successful at it. So they're the poster child. Just like Belichick was, just like Bob Gibson was in baseball, Wilt Chamberlain was in basketball. And Eagles fans should take pride in that in a weird way. Because they forced them to change the game by their success with the Tush.
Part of me wonders if they just use Green Bay because they don't have a damn owner, and you just kind of use that team. And
maybe.
Nobody, there's nobody that it falls on. There's no owner it falls on, and they can do it that way. But anyway, I digress. I don't want to BLG. I do want to talk about some other things with you other than the tush push here, which probably is outlawed. Nick Sirianni to you is what, BLG? What is he worth? Is he a $20 million man, a $21 million man? When you think of Nick Sirianni as the head coach, what do you think of when it comes to him in this league?
We'll never know, right? Because apparently these are like state secrets getting even the years of the deal. Yeah. That's insane. No one knows, apparently. Total mystery. Why can't we know that? Like, why? Especially when in the past, it's a pretty like standard 4 or 5 year deal. It's like typically
I mean, if I were speculating, I would say it's 4 to keep him at 5 years total.
Especially he had the year left, right? So they probably just tack on 4. Yeah. And then sometimes there's options in there in the past. I remember Doug Peterson had an option that I think they picked up shortly after they had won the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, he's worth whatever, the prices, the market prices, the going rate. I mean, especially when there's no salary cap for coaches, not really worried what he makes. And I think, the top coaches are making around 20 or so.
20, right? Andy's at 20 reportedly. Nobody really knows.
So I'm guessing Nick's at least 15. I'm guessing. I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to know with the lack of information we have.
If I'm Clint Dowdle is Nick's agent. If I'm Clint, I'm asking for 21 million. Why wouldn't I ask for 21 million?
Sure.
I don't know if he's getting it. I think the Eagles would consider it a win if he takes a little bit less than Andy Reid.
Yeah.
But I think Sean Payton's number 2. I got to get more money than Sean Payton. He's 18.
Yeah. Maybe. It's tough, though. I mean, those guys have such longevity. I don't know how much of that is a factor. I know the winning, obviously, is incredible and high and hard to argue against, but maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just the tenure of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you surprised,
Nick?
When I was listening to Jalen Hurts yesterday, I felt, he's been through a lot of changes, we all know, dating back to Alabama, really, never mind the pro, but constant changes with play callers that we've talked about ad nauseum. Last year, BLG, I think it was a little bit more worried. Kellen Moore coming from outside, inside to the organization. This time, I felt a calmness. Kevin Petullo's been there for, since Nick got here. Did you sense that, or is that just me? Because that's what I was like, this guy's calmer than he typically is when all this change is going about.
He doesn't still seem thrilled about Kevin Petullo, I would say. But, I guess there really isn't too much Jalen seems to be thrilled about, including winning the Super Bowl, apparently. He didn't really look thrilled after that game.
I don't think anybody did. AJ is
that's true.
I'm not fulfilled.
That is true.
Devontae.
So
you guys think that would be a bigger problem? I agree with you, John, where you're it's good to want to be focused on the process, but if you don't care to the level that they don't care, does it take away the desire to get back?
I don't think so, because they're so competitive.
Mm-hmm.
They're just worried about.
They're competitive people at heart. They want to win every game.
Yeah, they're just worried about beating the guy in front of them.
You have to have a balance, though. I think at some point of joy, Nick Sirianni has even talked about that. That was like
Yeah,
a big theme
yeah.
last year. I know Zach Berman has done a good job with that angle specifically. Because I think a big thing that went wrong in 2023, and I've always talked about this in terms of like people were criticizing Jalen's leadership that season and how they didn't do it, in 2022. But like I think there's just times where more levity is needed at some point. You can't just be like head down, like miserable existence unless we win like all season long. I think there's times within a season, within a given structure of the week where you kind of need that levity. And remember, you're playing a game and it's supposed to be fun at some level. Obviously there's high stakes, there's pressure, and you want to be great. And maybe there's something that just like you look at Michael Jordan, who Jalen obviously idolizes and has now spent time with, and like I wouldn't say Michael Jordan's like a very happy person. And that is like I think well evidenced, and even in like his Hall of Fame, his speech, like, and maybe and even Tom Brady. Like, I don't know that Tom Brady's really like a happy person.
No,
I think something probably you might have to sacrifice your happiness at some level to be great, but at some level, again, as a team leader, at some kind of element, across the board, it can't just all be all work and no fun. There has to be some kind of fun angle to it.
Yeah, I generally look at it as a positive because I think it's a positive when from AJ's perspective, at least he kind of figured he said he thought he would be fulfilled, and he didn't. Yeah. And then he kind of figured out that it's about the journey, yada yada, more than the destination. And from that standpoint, I think it's good because it's like, well, this guy's right back on board to try to win again. Whereas I don't want the satisfied guy. To your point about Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, they were never satisfied.
Yep.
So I overall, I think that's a positive thing.
Agree.
For the head coach, BLG. Well, and this was bad timing for Greg Rosenthal. I've been bringing this up. He happened to do, former NFL media guy, he happened to do on his show, and I'm sure he had no idea Nick's contract was coming because it was done before. He had a coaching draft. He and his co-host were going back and forth. So they were picking current NFL coaches, and Andy Reid was number one. I forget the top 2 or 3, but anyway, long story short, Nick Sirianni, number 15. What? I think there's a lot of talk about Jalen Hurts not getting credit for his resume, winning playoffs, NFC Championship, Super Bowl. And I think people talk about that a lot. Nick Sirianni gets no credit. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's too low. Exactly where he should rank. I think you can debate that, but I think we all know that would be too low. And I think part of why I'm guessing, trying to get into Greg's mindset here, you put someone like in the middle like that is you kind of don't know what to do with them. Exactly. You don't know fully what to make of them. And obviously Sirianni has won a lot, so you have to make something of that. I think it's fair. It's not fair in terms of it's too low of a ranking. I think the feeling of totally not being totally sure exactly what he contributes to winning, there is like a basis for that in the sense that I think a lot of the things that we praise Nick Sirianni for are a little bit nebulous, right? At least as it compares to in contrast to other head coaches that we can say the play calling is great. Whatever. Things more you can point to. Dan Campbell, the aggression is great. Nick Sirianni, it's not as, I think, always easy to see, but it comes to a point where you have to zoom out and look at how much they've won.
Yeah.
And say, obviously, he plays a part in that.
Good word for it, actually.
And then the last thing I'll say is that, I do think there could be, I think some of the biggest Sirianni supporters from what I see online, like, I think there are times where I think there's a little bit of like, okay, are we drawing a line here between correlation and causation? Like, I think some people can also go overboard and being like, he drives this whole thing, and I just don't think that's not true. I mean, it's like the front office, it's the talent. He's part of it, but he's not 1 or 2 on that list.
Yeah. By the way, breaking news: the Lions have withdrawn their proposal to modify the NFL's playoff seeding system, which basically means they did not have the votes, and that's what happened. I always find it interesting. Nobody figures out that nothing's getting voted down for the most part. If they want something and they don't have the votes, they're going to table it. They're not going to vote it down.
Right.
And that's the case with the seating. Up next will likely be the tush push. It's likely going to, and I'm breaking my own rule. They're going to remove pushing from the game, and that's how it will go. Any other takes from Jordan Mailata, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts? Anything stand out to you from yesterday, BLG?
Yeah, I really liked what Jordan Mailata had to say, and I think it's kind of been like underrated how much of a leader he's become on this team.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was a team captain for the first year last year, and obviously he's going to be the starting left tackle. But the phrasing and the framing that he used of like, hey, I'm telling these rookies, like, you know, if you come for my job, basically, like he views it as like a competition at left tackle. Obviously, he fully expects to win that, and he will win that. But he said, like, if you're better than me, I'll vouch for you. And I believe it when he says that. Now, obviously, I don't think they're going to be better than him, but I believe that the mindset that he has kind of seems to have really, and it's really incredible to think too, for a guy who'd not come up in a football ecosystem, for a guy who didn't play football until coming here. I think like Jason Peters, sorry, and Lane Johnson have like really rubbed off on him, and guys don't have to do that, right? Like Jordan Mailata could have taken that tutelage and only used it for himself and been a great player. And that's not even like he's a terrible person for doing that. Like that's fine. That's acceptable. It's not like crazy for him to do that. But to go above and beyond and then want to help, you know, Cameron Williams and Miles Hinton and guys like that, like that's a next level kind of thing here. And that shouldn't be underappreciated. Like that is real.
And I love that Jordan brought up everybody. He brought up Kelsey, he brought up Isaac, he brought up
100%.
Vaitai,
Chance Warmack.
Chance Warmack got some love.
That's a good name.
Chance Warmack. Yeah. So I mean, that's something because it's counterintuitive to want to help a guy who's gonna try to take your job.
Yeah, but it is actually good advice for the young guys. You know, come in there every single day and work like that. That'll give you the best chance of success wherever it is.
Yeah. That's leadership. He's a leader. And I think that's really important, especially like as Brandon Graham goes out the door and you lose something better. Jason Kelsey a couple seasons ago now. Yeah, I think that's really important to have.
All right. At Brandon Goutton, he's no loser. He's no coward. He told you what he thought about these NFL reactive people. Read them at bleedinggreennation.com. One-stop shop, as I always call it. Each morning, I'm sure they'll have coverage of the news today from Minneapolis. Does a great job there and does a great job with us, and we always appreciate it at BLG.
Thank you, BLG.
See you guys.
BLG joining us here on Birds 365. Great job from BLG. All right, coming in, giving the heat to the NFL, all right, for singling out the Eagles. I like it. It was a good conversation that you guys had there on the Tush Push. We'll see when that vote comes down today. Thought both guests were great today, John. Differing opinions from the two guests, which is always a good thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, I love when people stand by their opinions. That's what makes good talk radio, good streaming, what we do here. So, always appreciate people with strong opinions and the ability to back it up. That's the key part. Anybody can say stuff, but have, you know, the knowledge, the institutional knowledge to back it up. Always fun to debate people like that, and BLG's as good as they get.
Yep, no doubt about it. He was great. Mike Gill's been great too. Mike Gill's been stirring the pot on the show the last couple of weeks, which has always been good. So we appreciate him joining in. Appreciate BLG. What do you think, John? Is this the pushing going to be removed from the NFL today?
I think so. Interesting note just coming out from Adam Schefter. Jason Kelsey is in Minneapolis on behalf of the Eagles to lobby NFL owners. So the Eagles are going all out. Try to get as many.
Lobby them the other way.
Yeah, to try to keep it in the game.
Oh, baby. It's heated up, John.
So we'll see. But once the competition gets committee gets behind it and the health and safety committee. That's a tough battle.
Is
But
today
we'll
the
see.
last day? So like it won't be able to be pushed to tomorrow.
No.
It's coming today.
No, it's coming today. Well, again, they're not going to vote it down. They're going to table it if they don't have enough votes, and that's the Eagles' strategy, I would imagine. You know, players don't seem to care, so I don't know why they're going all out. But you know,
Well,
it
maybe
has
they
become.
care more than they're showing, John.
It is become. Mike brought up a good point. It has become a branding thing that's been very successful for them. So maybe it's a business aspect of it
Yeah, I think
as
that's
well.
part of it too. That is part of it. I mean, you see
Yeah.
Tush push shirts and stuff,
Yeah.
stuff everywhere. So,
So
you know, Pumper says the NFL head doctor is involved. Tush push is cooked, fellas. If he's involved, yeah, it's cooked, no doubt.
well, yeah, the health and safety committee already voted to.
Yeah, they've been involved.
So yeah, it's an uphill battle, but they're doing everything they can.
All right, let's get to these super chats, John. We got to run through them here before the end of the show. Kimbo says, with J-Mac out on flag football, it'll ruin the sport. Yeah, I think we all agree on
Oh
that.
yeah,
Nobody wants to watch that.
Unfortunately, I've said, you know, somebody brought that up to me. I tell it all the time, years and years ago, and I laughed at them. I no longer laugh at them, unfortunately. You know, seeing it today. They use safety for everything. And once you get to this point where, and you know, you never know, the climate has changed a little bit politically, hopefully, but if it gets to the point, I think a lot of young people don't know how big boxing was back in the day. And it's basically a fringe sport today because of safety issues.
My dad tells me that all the time about how big because I love the sport of boxing.
Yeah, it was, you know, a big fight was the biggest thing in sports. And
the accessibility to boxing, John, today is so bad though, man.
Oh, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
terrible. It's a completely different landscape. Now there's plenty of other things, very corrupt sport, always, you know, bad promoters, all that kind of stuff. But it's mainly the safety dogma of the, you know, and it is a barbaric sport for the, you know, but I'm in the camp that adults should be able to do what they want, you know, and make their own decisions and make a lot of money boxing. So it's definitely a cost benefit thing.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Good stuff there. Killer Tomato checked in 10 minutes ago. ESPN reports Lions withdrew the reseeding proposal. We got that. Killer Tomato, thank you, brother, for giving us that news. That was at 9:49, about 11 minutes ago. Suo Blaze checking in. Because some commander loser got butthurt about a play we made him look stupid on. Now we're getting banned. It's teams try and catch up to us in any way.
Suo, man, yeah, you're giving Frankie Lubu a lot of credit. Like he doesn't have any power. He was trying to time a snap.
But I mean, John, look, the Eagles were the ones who were benefiting from this. Like, I get your point. Your point is macro. You know,
Yes.
get pushing out.
Well, you got. I mean, what I'm saying is
nobody addressed it until the Eagles got really good at a play. Like nobody gave a shit about this. Now, your point of hey, if another team did it successfully, maybe they would have done the same thing. I don't happen to agree with all the teams you mentioned, the Cowboys or any of those, but you know, I don't know. It certainly looks, John, to a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, but that's the problem. That's the micro look. You said it yourself.
It is micro. I agree.
That's the problem. You're thinking about it only from one team. They're thinking about it from 32 teams. They have a different job. I've said it pretty clearly. The Eagles took advantage of this situation and deserve all the credit for it. But that's not the NFL's job. The NFL's job is to make the sport as entertaining as possible,
right.
As valuable as possible. And their belief is that this in that particular situation was definitely the crux. I pointed that out at the time.
I just don't get like why, you know, and I get your macro point, but like why is pushing such a big problem? Like it's football, you know, like it's a physical game. Pushing sounds like it's a very normal thing to do.
It's a competitive advantage issue for the defense. And again, people don't look at it from that standpoint. The defense is getting screwed for years and years and years. And again, I get younger fans don't get this. You stop forward momentum, the play was over. The play was over.
Right.
That was it. And then it became this thing where, instant replay, there's all these unintended consequences. I talk about them all the time. You bring in instant replay. Now the officials are worried about, oh, are they looking at me for this? Are they going to criticize me for? So I'll just let the play go. And all of a sudden, people are pushing because the whistle isn't blowing and the play isn't over. So they're taught to play to the whistle. So all of a sudden, pushing becomes a thing. I get there's a whole generation, because it's been 20 years. I get that there's a whole generation of people that only know that one way. For far longer, it was the other way. And that was a less, and I always say, pretty consistent. I generally defend the defense because they've changed so many rules over the years that favor the offense.
It does. I get what you're saying. It does. It does move us a little closer to flag football, right? It's a physical thing, and they're taking it out. They're taking it out.
Well, that I disagree with. It was a more physical game before pushing was in it.
There's a litany of other things that go there, not just
far more physical game when there was no pushing. I mean, far more physical game. So yeah, I don't necessarily think of it that way.
Pumper checks in. Pumper says, simple. Roger Goodell grew up a Chiefs fan. If Andy used the tush push, Roger would be busting. They would release a 4-part docuseries. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I get we're an Eagles show, but man, yeah, it was complete Mike Roast situation. Like
J-Mac Big Cap'n Pumper says, Midnight Lexicon says, I agree with Z and BLG. Safety issue is it guys to ban the tush push.
Well, why didn't you include me? I freaking said the same thing.
Yeah.
They use safety for everything.
Fleming says, Corey dying changed football across the country. I was playing high school football and water was perceived as a weakness. He died and then there were water breaks. Yeah, that was a crazy story, man.
I was there. I was
Corey
a part
Stringer,
of all of that.
Yeah, Corey Stringer, yeah.
Yeah. They had mandated water breaks after Corey Stringer.
Yeah, man, crazy.
Didn't have any before.
I wish I read this to BLG. Killer Tomato says, BLG woke up this morning and said, I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. Eagles fans are concerned about the Eagles. I get it. But
Pumper checks in one more time. He says, being a 3/8% Polynesian from my grandfather's side, Frankie is no longer my oos.
Yeah. People give a lot of credit to Frankie. Who was that? Sue gave a lot of credit. Like
Frankie. That's what they're calling him.
One thing I know about Frankie Lubu, he's got no power whatsoever. Just trying to, and Frankie Lubo has said pretty consistently, if he were on the Eagles fans would love him. He's that player. He's that player.
You might say on your team, power, but he wielded the little power he has in a good way. All right, because he's not going to have to deal with the tush push next year.
Well, you're giving Frankie way too much credit if you think that was his goal. He was trying to.
Similar to how we talked about the tush push being the catalyst for the rule change. Frankie was partly the catalyst for.
He was, but there's like this pre-planned to do it. No, that's bullshit. He was trying to time the snap.
Planted by
trying to do
to get rid of the tush push is Frankie Doo-Doo. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, great show today. We'll see what happens when it comes down, brother, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on a Thursday edition of Birds 365. Thank you, brother.
All right, thanks all.
All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen over there on Twitter. Does a great job over there. Keeps you up to date with all your Eagles news. So if anything happens, John will retweet, post, talk about it over on X. So good stuff. They appreciate everybody being here today. All right. What are we thinking? Pretty funny, man. Pretty funny show. You get Mike Gill, you get BLG. I thought we should have given what I thought we should have done. Now I can't control everything. I thought we should have given BLG the floor, to start to kind of give his take on it. All right. Just to give his take on it, but we didn't really get that. That's all right though. BLG was great. Appreciate everybody being in here. Sig Lord says Johnny Macro, never seeing any nuance. I like that. I like that nickname, Johnny Macro. 4 for 4 says Luvu is one of those softies that tries to look tough with tattoos. I'll eat his lunch in his face. Oh man, that's funny. Kip, Big Z, what's up, Kip? Hope you're doing good, brother. Some Black says you missed my super chat, bro. No, I didn't. Oh man, you dropped it right at the end. Sorry, bro. Lions, we saw it. We talked about that some, Black Ninja. He says Lions took back their proposal due to low support. Yeah, so the playoff seeding, which was always dumb. I mean, let's be real. That was always a dumb proposal to begin with. So, like, what do we need to change the playoffs for now? Because why? Because one 14-team win didn't have a home game? Like, I don't give a crap. You know, win your division. All right? Win your division. Sorry, Sun Black Ninja. I didn't mean to miss your super chat, but we did. I did address it here, and we did talk about it. Suo Blaze says, might as well ban double teams with that logic. I hear you. Pumper, I'm in near Asia. You bums get be caught up with Discord. I don't know what that means. Philly Don, what's up, my brother? Appreciate you, Philly Don. Hope you're doing good. All right. Hope you're doing good. Ben Dover. Goofy name. I know what you're doing with that name. All right. Dover Ben, I'll call you that. Dover Ben says Saquon or Dylan or Ben Van are getting a lot of tutties this year. We'll see. John seems to think that it's going to still be Jalen Hurts getting the touchdowns down there. So we'll see. You can't shorten his name. I can do whatever I want, Curtis. I can do whatever I want. Ryan says the show didn't stink today, Xander. Good job. The show never stinks, Ryan. I saw Ryan earlier saying it. Ryan, what was that comment you made earlier? It was, Xander, you're making too much of BLG joining the show. Yeah, Ryan, you sit back, kick your feet up, maybe grab a cup of coffee, turn on the TV, maybe play a song, light up a joint, whatever it is that you do. You sit back, kick your feet up and relax. And I'll handle bringing the guest onto the show. Thank you, Ryan. All right? Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. All right? I appreciate it. Xander sees the bend over but missed the rich spot. I didn't see that. All right? Pumper is the feds. I like that. I like that. Tony, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing good. All right, so do we all think it's gone? Do we all care? I'm so past caring about this. I've talked way too much about it this offseason. All right? I agree with this, Kimbos. And John, on one hand, says we're going closer to flag, but I do think his argument for pushing out kind of moves us closer to that, whether he wants to admit it or not. All right. There are other things there, though. We're moving further away from real football every day, Kimbo says. Well, Yoshi, did you take your deep breaths, Yoshi? Because you came in this chat today when Mike Gill was on. Oh, they're saying 0-4. Yoshi, deep breath. Deep breath. It's sports ball, Yoshi. It's sports ball. You might not agree with everything Mike Gill says, or I say, or John says. All right? Deep breath, Yoshiwara. I love you, brother. I appreciate you being here. Where's Artax? He'll pop up. Talking about my looks or all sorts of crap. Smackdown Inc. What's up, brother? Don't care, but it's just annoying because if this was Dallas, we would not be having this combo. I agree with that for sure. John said if any team did it, like including the Cowboys, we would still be having this conversation. I'm like, I don't know about that, John. I don't know about that. Today's show is awesome. Keep up the great jobs. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. All right, it was a good show today. Texas T checking in. What's up, Texas T? No point crying about it. We'll be fine. I agree. Look, team is good, man. Team is good. All right. That's the bottom line. All right. We can argue about a football play. We can argue about a stupid tush push. We could do all these things. This team is good. This team is good because they got talent everywhere. All right. They got great coaches. They got great talent. They got a great quarterback. They got a great running back, great wide receivers, the best offensive line in football, great defense, a great defensive coordinator. Like, taking away the tush push doesn't usurp those things. Okay, those things are still more important than the tush push. Now, did the tush push aid us in being harder to stop because you were basically 1st and 9? You could always pick up the first down if you got within a yard. Yeah, it did. I think they'll be all right, though. All right, I think they'll be all right. Let's see. People are saying Daz is on point. Let's see what he says. Can't wait to see our counter, Ty Robinson, about to eat. Well, that's true. Ty Robinson's going to be a boss. I like Ty Robinson. Ty Robinson might be my favorite rookie this year. Obviously Campbell has the most upside, but year one, I could see Ty Robinson being the biggest impact, which would be pretty crazy for a 4th-round pick, but I could see it. Prince says, I dislike it when J-Mac gets into these moods. Listen, it's all good, Prince. Moods sway. My moods sway too. Just like your mood, Prince. I've noticed you're perhaps PMSing this week, Prince. A lot of crying coming from you. But hey, I still love you. I still accept you. All right, Prince? Good night. Guy's PMSing over there, and he's talking to me about moods. I never seen somebody with more moods than you, Prince. I never seen a guy with more moods than Prince. Dude, get a different mood every day. Come on, Prince. He says, here we go. Here we go is right, Prince. Here we go is right. You got more moods than Pumper, dog. I'm just kidding, man. You know I love you, Prince. All right. Crowley says Makuba will probably start. I agree. Joe Whip checking in. What's up, Joe? Ty has the physical ability and the smarts to be a damn good player. He certainly has the smarts, man. You can hear him. You can hear him when he speaks. Just sounds like a smart dude. Joe, I disagreed with you early in the show that Jalen has no prima donna in him. He's got a little listen, he's a quarterback. I want him to have some prima donna in him, but he's got some yesterday they're running out the players, and I'm listening on the Eagles channel, and they put up the screen, right? The press conferences will resume shortly, right? With Jalen, it's like a 24-minute wait. I'm like, oh, your highness, bow at the knee of bow at the cross for Jalen. All right. He needs 24 minutes to come out. And then he comes out. John asked him a great question about everything he's got going on. Congrats on your wedding. Keep the main thing the main thing. Like, come on, guys. Listen, we all love Jalen Hurts. We all care a lot more about what he does for the football team. But we can acknowledge he's a little bit of a prima donna. At least I think he is. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think you have to be a successful quarterback. I do. I think you have to be a little bit of a prima donna. All right. So I got no issue with it, but I disagree with the notion that he's not one at all. All right. 90s excellence. What's up, M. Reyes? Prince. Oh, Prince. He says, listen here, spicy ginger. I'm not a ginger at all. What are you talking about? That's funny, man. That is funny, though. Bone to Bonehead. What's up, Jeff Bone? He checks in. Watch, they're going to ban Saquon running next. Saquon forearm running next. Since they want to ban plays they can't stop. Only reason why they're banning it is because they're haters. Let's go. Yo, Bonehead. Jeff Bone, the Bonehead. I will say this. Jeff Bone, the Bonehead, is a top commenter, top supporter of JAKIB Nation. All right. One, the guy's hilarious. Two, the guy's got an all-time name. Like, all you guys coming up with all these different screen names. A lot of nerds in here come up with some trash screen names. All right? They're not even funny. They're not even good, like Artax. Then you got Jeff Bone, the Bonehead. I mean, that's a top name right there. That's a top name right there. Okay? Nothing's wrong with gingers. I'm just not a ginger, so I was just correcting Prince. All right? I don't have red hair. My hair gets light in the summer. Gets lighter. Dover checking in. Xander, if Jalen doesn't talk in cliches, they will take what he says serious, and it will be on ESPN the next day about some team drama. Well, I'll say this. All right, maybe sometimes I just want them to speak. Like, bro, speak normal. Like, it's okay. All right, I don't care. You're the starting quarterback. You're the highest paid player in the organization. You're the Super Bowl MVP. As far as I'm concerned, nobody has to agree with you. It doesn't matter. You're Jalen Hurts. You can say what you want, do what you want. All right. We all have to kiss the ring because you're the one who won it. Okay. So I don't really agree. Like, just speak normal, but he doesn't. That's his style. That's all right, though. That's all right. I thought AJ Brown was a lot more enjoyable to listen to yesterday. And again, this doesn't matter. None of it matters. It matters what they do on the field. All right. That's him on and off the field. Yeah, it probably is. All right. Big Z family must be from Northern Italian. So my on my mom's side, M-Kip. On my mom's side, I'm not fair-skinned at all. Wait a second. Wait a second. I am not a fair-skinned person. You should see me in the summertime. Let me find. If you would like me to find you a picture to prove to you that I am not a fair-skinned, like Johnny Mack is fair-skinned. Remember, I'm on my computer right now. I'm not in my studio, so I don't have my camera out. This is a crappy webcam This doesn't look exactly how it looks. All right. I am overall. I can't show that image. I don't have a good image to show you. All right. But I do get very tan. I saw that vid of Z Bay watching on the beach. I don't know what video you're talking about. You're white as fuck. I love being white. I say that all the time. One dude was in here saying you're white. I'm like, who cares? What the fuck does that mean? I don't judge people based on what they look like. All right. I acknowledge that you look different than me or somebody does, but I care about who you are as a person. All right. We have devolved into fair skin. Yes, we have. That means I'm getting out of here. All right. 10:18. It's my time to check off. All right. You guys are, I'm out. I'm out on this conversation. All right. I'm out on this conversation. Zander, come back. Z is an exciting white. There you go. I'll take that nickname. Tan Man Zan. There you go, Keese. All right. Don't tan more savage than the Chip. You are Chip. You're no longer Kip. I gotta stop calling you Kip. You know, there's ladies in here, so if I pull this picture up, the ladies will go crazy. So let me just hold off on the picture that I can show here, okay? Because let me tell you. All right, off that topic. No, Kip, what I was saying was my grandmother was 100% Italian. My grandmother and grandfather, who I unfortunately never got to meet, died of pancreatic cancer when he was 63. Both of their parents were directly off the boat, first-generation Italian immigrants, all entrepreneurs, all started their own businesses, had the Kazacani, a restaurant in Glenside, all different things. The shore house that I'm at right now, I've told this story once before, but the shore house that I'm at right now, my grandfather bought it in 1978 for 68 grand, or I think it was 68 or 72 grand, somewhere in there. And the story is crazy because Cape May back then at the time wasn't like it is now. Cape May in the 70s was kind of the one at the end. It wasn't as developed. It wasn't as nice. It was where the old people went to have dinners. Like, it was way different back in the 70s. So listen to this. My grandfather liquidated his credit cards to buy the Cape May house. And when they were putting the offer in, my grandmother, who was a devout Catholic, prayed the rosary every single day, beautiful woman, top to bottom, beautiful soul. She went to church the morning of them putting the offer in. And she prayed a rosary on them buying the house. And she called back, or after church, she called my grandfather, her husband, and said, we need to up the offer by $1,000. All right. We need to up the offer by $1,000. I think we're going to get beat with where we are. And I prayed on it, and we need to up the offer $1,000. They upped the offer $1,000, and they won the bid by $500. They won the bid by $500. So 78, they bought it. We still have the house today. So pretty insane though. But I love thinking about that story because it shows you when you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you got to make some tough decisions and do things that are out on a limb. But when you are a smart person and you believe that it will pay off, it does that way. So Secunda, I know, who's like an atheist, says, wow, praying works. Yep, that's true, Joe Whitt. Parts of Cape May were wiped out early 60s, lost the beach and the boardwalk. Yep, there's so much history in Cape May, Joe Whitt. It's one of my favorite things about it is I'll walk around the town and they have like those plaques up, where you can find the plaques and they tell a story about a certain landmark or monument or something like that. And I love reading it, Rand. I love reading that and just learning about the history of the town. But it's dope story, right? Dope story. Maybe one day I'll have a story like that of my own. I'll liquidate credit cards to buy a house in Cape May. All right. That'd be pretty sick. But anyway, I appreciate all of you guys for being here. All right. Let me get the super chats. Prince says, Barb out you looking like Brock Lesnar's daughter ready to suplex a Tinder date through a coffee table. Linebacker built. That's foul, Prince. Why'd you need to super chat that on my girl, Barb. Stop, man. Come on, man. That's foul, Prince. I told you Prince is moody. Barb, I told you Prince is moody. All right, he's a moody guy. Tram on the boardwalk? No, there's no tram in Cape May. All right. That's not a girl's name. I don't know what Barb is. She can be whatever she wants, all right? As long as she's here supporting Jacob, then I appreciate her. Or, yeah, her. All right, I appreciate all you guys hitting the like button, dropping in on the channel today. I thought we had a great show today. I thought the guests were great. All right. Appreciate all of you guys for being in here. Hit the like button on the way out. I'll see you next time on Birds 365. Thank you all very much.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.